Hello, I'm so glad that you're able to join us. Over the past few weeks, we've been looking at the rhythms of grace that Jesus invited us to join him in. We've been considering the way of Jesus, which is a better way than anything we have or could ever come up with. Jesus' yoke was his lifestyle as well as his teaching, his invitation to walk and work with him lightly and freely. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to look at some of the rhythms that were woven into the core of Jesus' life. Things like silence, Sabbath, simplicity, and slowing. They might sound awful to you, but if you bear with me and if we're able to root and establish ourselves in these rhythms of Jesus, we will find life sweeter, more in step with Jesus, more connected to God and with those around us. And I believe that when we live in these rhythms, it brings a smile to the heart of God. Now, before we go any further, I would just like to mention something for people who were born maybe after 1995, because they won't know much about it. It's a phenomenon called boredom. Now, to explain, it's like when you've got really bad internet connection or your TikTok feed takes more than 2 seconds to load. Now, before Wi-Fi and 4G and all that, if you had to wait in a queue or wait for a bus or wait for a film to start, all you could do was wait. Now, we can do so much on our smartphones. We are generally more efficient, more connected. We have access to more information, but we've lost something crucial. All those little moments of boredom were potential prayer portals. Little moments throughout the day to tune in to the reality of God around us, what David referred to last week as waiting prayers. Now, waking, waiting, whispering and waning prayers are 4 types of opportunity to meet with God throughout our day, to be more aware of our souls, to draw our mind's attention and devotion back to God. All those little moments can just get so easily eaten up. The second we feel even a hint of boredom, we now seem to reach for our phones. So if the most important moment is now, and if we want to be present to each moment, if we want to be present to God, present to each other, present to all that is good and beautiful and true in our world, present to our own souls, can we find a practice in the way of Jesus that could help? Well, Jesus said, apart from me, you can do nothing. And in the Psalms, we're told, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him, and be still and know that I am God. Silence is an ancient Christian practice that can help us with that. Now, at the beginning of Jesus' ministry, he was baptized and audibly blessed by God. And then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry and the tempter came to him. So Jesus was baptized, all systems go, but then he headed straight out into the desert. Now, desert doesn't necessarily mean heat and sand. The Greek word is eremos, which can mean deserted place, desolate place, solitary place, lonely place, quiet place, or wilderness. And the 4 Gospels all have accounts of Jesus' relationship with the eremos. But this one, after he was baptized, is the first one. And it's easy to look at it and think, how like the devil to come at us when we're tired and alone and not on our best. But the wilderness, the eremos, isn't a place of weakness. It's a place of strength. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness because it was there that Jesus was at the height of his spiritual powers. It was only after 6 weeks of praying and fasting in the quiet place that he had the capacity to take on the devil and come away intact. And that's why throughout the Gospels we find Jesus coming back to the eremos. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house and went off to a solitary place, the eremos, where he prayed. Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place, the eremos, and get some rest. They went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place, the eremos. Later that night, he was alone on the land, and he went up a mountainside to pray. Now, the word eremos isn't actually used here, but I think a mountainside in the middle of the night probably fits the bill. In Luke's Gospel, we find Jesus is in the eremos 9 times. He often withdrew, he frequently got away. He made a point of hiking up mountains to pray on a regular basis. It was a common habit, foundational to his rhythms of grace. In fact, the busier and the more in demand Jesus was, the more he would withdraw to his quiet place to connect with God. So if you're thinking, I don't think this is going to work for me, I'm an extrovert, I'm a full-time mum, I do shift work, I've got ADHD, I've got a demanding job. Jesus needed quiet time, and a fair bit of it. So why would we think we're any different? Silence and stillness is what this practice of Jesus has become known as over the years. And there are 2 dimensions to this rhythm: external silence and internal silence. Now, external silence is quiet. No noise, no music, no TV, not in the background, even no, chatting on the phone while you're unloading the washing machine. It makes you think, why do we surround ourselves with so much external noise? Could it be that we are trying to use external noise to drown out the internal noise? Now, internal noise is the mental chatter and clatter and clutter in our heads. It's the running commentary on our life, replaying conversations. It's those fantasies, the other sort, the revenge fantasies, where we're thinking, oh, if only I said that to so-and-so, or if I did that with so-and-so. It's the worry chipping away at our peace and our joy. It's obsessing over hypothetical scenarios, role-playing the future, catastrophizing, dreaming of a perfect life, whilst poisoning the lives that we actually have. The kind of silence we need to aim for is when we still both the external and the internal noise, to create an environment for attention and connection to God. And there's no better place for that than the eremos. Throughout the history of the church, most of the master teachers have agreed that this stilling of ourselves, this silence, is the most important of all the spiritual practices. So what do? Well, find our own eremos. Is it a favourite chair at home? A morning routine? A walk through the woods? It's somewhere where we can come away. We take our time. Maybe it's not a long time, but it's long enough to decompress. Sometimes a few moments will be enough. Sometimes an hour won't be long enough. We slow down and breathe. We come back to now, to the moment. And we will start to feel the good, the bad, and the ugly in our own hearts. It can be released and exposed. But rather than leaking it out over those around us who we love the most, it's brought out in the safest place of all, in God's presence. And then hopefully through the internal noise will calm down, and we will sense his voice cutting through, speaking love over us. We'll get his perspective and our humble and good place in it all. We'll come to a place of freedom. Our failures will lose their power over us, but so will our accomplishments and our achievements. We can get out from underneath other people's opinions. We're free to just be us, nothing more than God's children, the Father's children, adopted, blessed and chosen. In the eremos, our souls come home, and that's what Jesus meant by abiding. We abide in an abode, and our soul's best abode is in the loving arms of God, free from distraction. Our souls rest well in the eremos when it leads us to the heart of God. Now, we can neglect this rhythm of grace, make excuses, push past it, and face emotional and spiritual dis-ease. Or we can recapture this rhythm. The whole world is actually buzzing with this just now, and they call it mindfulness, which is just silence and stillness for the secular world, minus the best part, Jesus. A lot of people find this rhythm extremely hard, but really it's easy and light. It takes a little time each day just to be alone in the quiet with God. Ideally, we can add some longer stints, maybe get a retreat, but it's more about resting than working. It's more about not doing than doing. It's subtraction rather than addition. It's easy, and it will make the rest of our lives even easier. Now, John Mark Comer, who wrote The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, said this about his eremos. Here's to tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, coffee, the chair by the window by the tree. Time to breathe, a psalm, maybe some verses from the Gospels, or just sitting and resting. Maybe I'll hear a word from God which will change my destiny. Maybe I'll just process my anger over something that's bothering me. Maybe I'll feel my mind settle like untouched water. Maybe my mind will ricochet from thought to thought and never come to a rest. If so, that's fine. I'll be back same time tomorrow, starting my day in the quiet place. So I would just love to encourage you to take a few minutes, ideally at the beginning of the day or whenever works best for you, and simply do nothing. Find a comfortable place when you won't be distracted or disturbed. Set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes and just be still in the silent love before God. And remember, the goal isn't never to get distracted. We will get distracted. The goal's to develop the skill of resting in God's presence, to come back to Him wherever our thoughts may have wandered, to sit there long enough for the peace of His Spirit to well up inside our bodies, to thank Him for it, and then to head out into the rest of the day with a clearer sense of His presence with us.